everyone again. My name is Jenny, ITS Georgia president. Work for Kimberly Horn. To get started, what we like to do is welcome any first-time attendees. So if you're here for the first time, if you want to go ahead and we're going to make you stand up and kind of introduce yourself, name, where you work. Yeah, go for it. Really loud.
I'm an intern at HNTV. My name's Lucas Ferreira.
Awesome.
And I go to Georgia Tech.
Sweet. Welcome.
I'm Ian Pike. I work at AECOM. I'm an ITS graphic associate. My first time.
Jerome Robinson, regional sales manager for Waitronics.
I just graduated from college and I started working at Atkins.
Al Bennett, graphic wear covering Georgia and North Carolina.
John Whitman, AECOM, I was engineer.
I just like one of the
Awesome.
I'm Michelle Jernigan, Business Development Director at World Fiber Technologies.
McElroy, I'm a roadway engineer with Kimberly Horn.
Here, Charlotte Daily. I'm a roadway intern with Kimberly.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. Welcome. Also, if there's been any recent job changes, promotions, company changes, you're more than welcome to go ahead and stand up and announce that. Nope. Awesome. All right. Well, so we'll get into our committee updates. Legislative. I don't think we have. I don't even. Tom, he actually left, so I don't think we have any legislative. I think they're out of session anyways. Scholarship. D. Taylor. Did he leave too? Yep. So D. Taylor left. So our scholarship committee is putting together the application. So if you're interested in getting involved with the committee and reviewing all of those essays and stuff when they come in, you can shoot me an email, go online, ITS Georgia emails there, and just let us know. We're always looking for folks to help us review all of those applications. Membership, Tom? Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe our membership's going strong. If anybody here has any recommendations of consulting firms or vendors or government bodies that you think should be involved, reach out to me. I'll leave a couple of my cards up on the signing table up front. Grab one on the way out and drop me a line if you have any ideas.
Yep. So membership questions, see Tom. For annual meeting, we're about to open up registration for that. So you get a huge discount if you're a member, as well as I'm about to start talking about elections. But if you're interested in running for the board or an officer position, it's in our bylaws that your company also has to be a member for that. So questions, you can see Tom, you can join online. ITS Georgia is company membership, so if your company is a member, you are also a member. Going off of that, elections, call for nominations will actually open today, so you should be seeing an e-blast about that. ITS Georgia is 2-year terms. All of our officer positions are up for election this year, so president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. All of those will be open, and then also I think 4 board of director positions as well. So all of those are 2-year terms. And so, yeah, you can self-nominate for those as well. Networking and social, I think when Whitney had to leave and Rachel's at a conference. But so we had our bowling social last Friday. It was a great turnout, so thank you guys for coming to that. We're tentatively coordinating a Braves game / social for Friday night, September. That will be held jointly again with ITE. Probably in September, and then for August, looking to do an outdoor concert series. It's anywhere around the city. But if you guys have any ideas, I know we get a lot of constructive criticism about where we hold our events. So if there's, an outdoor concert series or a bowling or whatever that you would like to see us do, please let us know, and we'll try to make that happen. We try to kind of do events all over different areas of town to kind of give everyone the same opportunity to come out. So. ITS Georgia annual meeting. I don't think Chuck's here either, so I'll talk about that. Our annual meeting is going to be October 6th through the 8th in Athens this year. KCI is the conference chair. Chuck Bailey is kind of organizing that, so if you're interested in helping out, please let us know. But technical committee is working hard. I think call for abstracts is over, so we've started kind of putting the technical agenda together for that. Bill, do you know when registration will open? Soon-ish? Month-ish, maybe? So just be on the lookout for that, but mark your calendars, October 6th through the 8th in Athens. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think our Monday night will be more of the progressive dinner like we did in Savannah with Creature Comforts Brewery. Going to do a tour there, and then dinner at the Georgian Hall. So it should be a lot of fun, lots of good activities planned for that. And also, I want to take a minute. I don't know if any of y'all have, I don't know if everyone's heard, but Jim Gray recently passed away. Taylor Stukes is with us here today. He's from GCA. He's going to just kind of come up and talk about Jim for a minute.
Thanks. Jim Gray died on June the 17th. He was a good man. Jim was also a pioneer in traffic engineering and ITS. He wrote design standards for Georgia DOT and for Florida DOT, and he ran GCA for almost 35 years. You might think it takes a stern character to run a company for that long, but Jim was always cheerful, polite, and personable when he talked to me. I suspect there are many in this room who can say the same thing. My very first job interview was with Jim Gray in February 1985. I was all set to graduate in March. He had just returned from 2 weeks in Casper, Wyoming, where he was installing a computer-controlled traffic signal system. When I walked in, he was filling out his expense report. As I talked, he kept working. It was a short interview, and it ended when he finished the expense report, got up, and went home. He started his company a few months later, the reason for the short interview. But the point of my story is that Jim Gray was installing a traffic signal system, a state-of-the-art ITS project, in 1985. The world will keep spinning, and the company will continue to function, but all of us at GCA will miss him because he was a good man. Thanks.
So our sponsor also could not be here today. It's ITS Digital Technologies. They help pay for the lunch, so if you see Heidi next time he's around, be sure to thank him, but he did send me a nice little excerpt that I get to read to you. ITS Digital Technology brings over 20 years of experience in ITS and 10 years of experience in access control. ITS Digital's expertise in video compression, video sharing, automatic incident detection, radars, and networking has supported large agencies such as GDOT under Core Tech Communications. ITS Digital is owned and operated by the same component team that has supported your video and ITS needs as Core Tech Communications. Core Tech Communication is still doing the design and manufacturing of smart power supplies, video, access control, and other electronics as OEM for well-known brands in the industry. ITS Digital has been teaming up with 360 Network Solutions since its inauguration. We have 20 plus years of experience in ITS, video compression, video analytic, communication, consulting, management, technical sales, national and international. We are the ITS consultant for the Georgia Interstate Broadband Deployment Project. We are the ITS consultant for the RTOT CCTV and network design. We designed and implemented the VSS video sharing solution for GDOT statewide. And we are the consultant on the design and implementation of automatic incident detection for the GDOT I-475, I-85 project. So thank you to ITS Digital. And to get to our main presentation, so I don't know what's that called? Projector is not working there, so sorry. There's one here and one here. But our speakers for today is Nima from Lime, and then where's Shaun? That's Shaun from the Beltline. So if y'all, I don't have a fancy bio to read for you guys. So I've been told that Shaun is very dynamic, so I'm expecting big things. So if you guys want to come up, warm welcome for these guys. I'm going to just hand it over to y'all and let you guys run with it. You're going first?
Did you want to go first? Sure.
You're going first. Okay, so you're the PowerPoint, I think.
I'll do the interpretive dance.
Sweet. Oh, no. You sure? Is it on? No, it's not. There it goes. Thanks.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Nima. Can everyone hear me all right? Yes, great. My name is Nima. I'm the Community Affairs Manager for Lime. Lime is one of 9 permitted dockless mobility operators in Atlanta right now. In addition to Atlanta, Lime operates in Decatur and Statesboro here in Georgia. For those of you that aren't familiar with micromobility options, specifically e-scooters, they are dockless products, just like the docked bike share system that you may be familiar with in other cities. We think they're really great for first mile, last mile connectivity. That's our primary goal. Secondarily, that would be under 3-mile trips. So we think it's pretty inefficient to use a 4,000-pound fossil fuel burning vehicle to go a short distance, and perhaps there are other alternative options like e-scooters. This is a timeline of our last year. We started June of 2017 in Greensboro, North Carolina with dock-free bicycles. We then added electric bicycles, then electric scooters, and we also have our Lime Pods, which is a car share system in Seattle. As you can see, in December of 2017, we had 1 million rides across of our network, and in 1 year, we launched scooters in February 2018, so about 2 months into 2018. And in 10 months, we went from 1 million to 26 million rides. We are now at 50 million rides across 22 countries on 5 continents. Some of the stats that I really like at the bottom right corner there are that women and people of color adopt e-scooters more so than they adopt bicycles. And obviously the cost is a lot lower to use a mass transit system and a dock-free system and a dock-free shared system rather than a personal vehicle. These are the markets we operate in the United States. These are the markets we operate in Europe. These are the markets in Australia, New Zealand. We are also in Latin America and in South America and Asia. As I said earlier, we operate in 3 markets in Georgia right now, which are Atlanta, Decatur, and Statesboro. I really like pointing out that all 3 have different models for dock-free systems, which is something that I know there's people from Georgia here as opposed to Atlanta, and something that I'm really interested in connecting with other cities who are interested in learning about the systems. So in Atlanta, we have a uncapped market. That means any scooter operator, any e-bike operator, anyone can apply for a permit, and assuming they hit the minimum requirements that the city requires, the city will issue them permits. We don't think this is a great model. Most successful cities have 3 to 5 operators. We are at 9 and counting. This causes a lot of confusion that we can talk about a little bit later. But then in Decatur, what I really like there is that we have an interim operating agreement with that city. That means they are currently studying how scooters operate in their city through this interim operating agreement, and will use those learnings to draft the ordinance. I think this is really important because we're learning that every city responds to scooters and e-bikes differently. So to try to use a one-size-fits-all template simply does not work. By way of example, I don't know if anyone is here from Brookhaven, but Brookhaven instituted an ordinance recently, and I don't think anyone has applied for it because of what they put in that ordinance is prohibitive to operating a dock-free system. So again, working collaboratively, putting our learnings together to figure out what works in each city is the best way to go. Lastly, with Statesboro, we have an exclusive agreement with Georgia Southern University to operate only on their campus. We've had that for almost a year now. The city of Statesboro has now reached out to look into expanding outside of campus as well. Some of the stats that I really like about Atlanta and Georgia are on the right-hand column, including our recently announced, we are now over 1 million rides on Lime in less than 12, or we just hit our 12-month anniversary was June 24th. That stat was a couple weeks earlier than that. So in less than 12 months, we had 1.1 million rides and 342,000 unique riders. Additionally, I like the top 2 stats of 40% and 37%, which is people who are using scooters for work and commuting, work and school for commuting purposes as opposed to joyrides or leisure, and that 37% of our trips have displaced a car trip. This is based on a 7,000 person user survey where we asked them if you didn't have a scooter available, how would you have gotten to your most recent destination? 37% said they would have used Uber, Lyft, personal vehicle, or a taxi. Extrapolating from that number, the city of Atlanta put out a 90-day report at the end of April, sharing their learnings across all providers for February and March and early April. And they said that across all the providers, there are 11,200 scooter miles traveled per day in Atlanta. So if we round that up to, let's say, 12,000 and round the 37 up to 40%, that's about 4,000 miles of car miles that are displaced every single day in Atlanta using these dockless products. So are scooters the cure-all for our road and traffic problems? Probably not, but they are making a significant dent. This is an example of one of our scooters. I say one of because the model we have here in Atlanta is actually a newer version than in this photo. We are constantly iterating on our scooter. Unlike some of the other operators out there, our scooters are designed in-house and they are custom manufactured for commercial grade usage. Some of the other competitor scooters out there, you can order that model on Amazon for personal use. A personal scooter cannot withstand the amount of usage that a commercial grade scooter needs to see. So we think it's really important to control the manufacturing system for the scooters. Our scooters in Atlanta are capped at 15 miles per hour. That is by the city ordinance, so we throttle the speed over the air through firmware updates. And in Atlanta, scooters cost $1 to unlock, 29 cents per minute to ride. The average ride is just under $4. If price is a problem, we have our nationwide Lime Access program. Lime Access, anyone who is on state or federal assistance qualifies for Lime Access. That could be SNAP or EBT, Medicaid, Social Security, really any sort of, even a discounted utility bill. As long as you submit the proof of eligibility for one of those programs, you receive all of your scooter rides at 50 cents to unlock and 7 cents per minute to ride, making the average scooter ride for a low-income user $1.25. Additionally, if you are unbanked, you can put cash onto your account by going to any of the 27,000 Pay Near Me locations across the country, including every CVS and Family Dollar, and you're able to put cash onto your account. Additionally, if you don't have a smartphone, you can use SMS technology to unlock the scooter rather than needing the camera on your phone. This is an example of our Gen 3 scooter. Again, we are constantly innovating. We learn from our last scooter model and then we improve on it. It has dual front shocks. It has wider, larger tires. It has more lighting. All of the weight, you can see how big and thick the base is. All of the weight has been moved to the base, to the bottom, to make it more bottom heavy, which helps with stability and ridership. We also have a color LED screen on top of it that will show you a bunch of information, including, if you look at the bottom right image, no parking. So if we instituted a geofence, the scooter will tell you you are in a no parking zone rather than needing to look into the app. The way it works is you download the app, you set up your account just like Uber, just like Lyft. The app will show you where the nearest product is if you can't see one visually, which in a perfect world you will always be within a couple hundred feet of a scooter so you could find one. If you cannot see one, use the app to locate the scooter you're looking for, scan it to unlock it, ride it to your final destination, properly park it, and then lock it again with the app. The 3 bits of feedback I get most are vehicle parking, vehicle riding, and what we do with our data, if anything. When it comes to vehicle parking, we have mandatory onboarding when you first start, which shows where to park, which is in the furniture zone, the image on the left. The furniture zone is the first 3 feet in from the curb where you would traditionally see a fire hydrant or a street sign or a bench or something like that. Additionally, we are able to put in geofences like I talked about earlier. If you look at the red blocks on the image on the right, that would be a geofenced area. So when you pull into a geofenced area with a scooter, there are a few different things that could happen. It could be a slowdown zone, which brings the scooter speed down to a couple miles per hour, like we did with the Beltline starting this Friday. Another thing would be it will not allow you to end your ride. So you could feasibly leave the scooter there, but you will continue to be charged per minute if you don't remove it from that zone. And lastly, like fees and fining and termination of accounts. And we do terminate accounts for people who misuse the system. One of the innovative things we did was add this game and photo upload. The game is called Parked or Not, and photo upload requires every user to take a photo of where they parked their scooter at the end of their ride before they can end their ride. Parked or Not is sort of like Tinder or Hot or Not. You swipe left for a bad parking job, you swipe right for a good parking job. This does a couple of things, which is one, it crowdsources images from around the world of properly parked scooters, so you in Atlanta could be swiping on a scooter from Paris. So if you are visually seeing a properly parked scooter, this helps reinforce what a properly parked scooter looks like. 2, if a scooter gets marked as misparked several times, it'll get raised to a person because we're crowdsourcing that information of misparked scooters, and we can look into why is this account, this person misparking scooters, or what's going on there, and feasibly reach out to them or even terminate their account. When it comes to sidewalk riding, we do not want people to ride on the sidewalks. It says on the scooter, do not ride on the sidewalks. There are few cities around the world that prefer scooters to be ridden on the sidewalks, but we don't really like that. We put out endless information and education, including talks like this, where I go and will speak to anyone who's interested. So at the end, I'll put my information up there. If you or your organization would like me to come and share information like this, I'd be more than happy to do so. We have endless videos we put out on our YouTube channel, on our Instagram channel, on our Facebook channels. We do in-person education. I teach 2 classes per month, one in Decatur, one here in Atlanta, on scooter safety and scooter riding. And we also do all sorts of things like our $3 million Respect the Ride campaign, where we distributed 250,000 helmets across the globe. We did real-world advertising, like the SUFA signs you may have seen in Atlanta. I believe there are like 47 of them now. So we will put real-world advertising on respecting the ride, stay off sidewalks, wear a helmet. We also do in-app notifications. If you look on the right side image, you can see at the top it says click here to see safety information in Atlanta. So we're able to customize. If you click that link, it takes you right to the Atlanta landing page, which has all the rules and regs for riding in Atlanta. Additionally, we can do custom pop-up messaging. So when we first rolled out scooters under the ordinance, we did the left image, which is wear a helmet, ride defensively, don't ride under the influence, etc. But also custom messaging, which is that center image. When we had the Super Bowl in town, there were designated parking corrals in specific places you could or could not ride around Super Bowl Olympic Stadium Village, or whatever they called that place. So we work with the city to put that information out there and send rider emails in addition to in-app notifications. I talked about the classes at the top. Those are shared in our monthly emails and through other channels. And lastly, any sort of press. Part of my job is also working with press, so whether it's podcasts or radio shows like Business Radio X or A Closer Look with Rose Scott, or writing op-eds or anything like that. Just making sure that information is out there for the people who want it. And then on data sharing. Since day one, we have freely shared all of our data with the cities in which we operate. We give them access to MDS, Mobility Data Specifications, which was created. It's an open source system. And I'm not a data person, so forgive me if I butcher some of this. But so the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation worked with GitHub to create this open source MDS system. And the way it was explained to me by our data scientists is if you think about the way data works, it's sort of like going into a library. When you walk into the library, you don't want every single book in there and every single page out of there. You're looking for specific bits of information. But each person is looking for specific bits of information. So MDS makes all of the scooter data in that city available, and then the cities partner with Remix or Populous, or if they have their own person who's able to do queries and interpret that data to then see like, okay, we want to know how many scooters started at X spot, or how many scooters went down Y street, or whatever data it is that they're looking for. They have all that data, and then they're able to go through and find what they're looking for, they being the cities and the college campuses and the private property owners that we partner with. One of the ways that we're very different from our other operators is our commitment to local operations. Since day one, we have had 24-hour on-the-ground full-time employees working in all of our markets. Here in Atlanta, we have like 35 to 40 people working across 3 shifts, which are putting out the scooters in the morning, moving them around during the day, collecting them at night. And same with all of our mechanical work. All of our mechanical repairs are done in-house. Again, we are vertically integrated. We think that's really important. Some operators, you watch a YouTube video, you're now certified to fix a brake line. We don't think that's safe. So we want to make sure that we're controlling all of the repair on our product. Sustainability is another huge passion for our founders and our founding team. In fact, one of our founding VPs is now our head of sustainability and has done several really great partnerships, including bringing in Carol Browner, who was President Barack Obama's EPA advisor. She is now our sustainability advisor. You can see at the top some of the stats on the CO2 and car miles that have been avoided. Globally, we are carbon neutral. We purchase carbon offsets, and we invest in solar and wind technologies to offset the minimal amount of gasoline that our vans use when rebalancing our scooters. In the country of France, we are 100% renewable and 100% local energy for our entire fleet, and France is a very good market for us. So again, just really focusing on sustainability. And lastly, what we would like to see, which is the future. The future is today. We can build this infrastructure. This infrastructure is this. This is a photo from Santa Monica, California, which is not necessarily the best place to look at for models of scooter operations. The way that the city set up the structure, Santa Monica is sort of like ground zero for scooters. Bird launched in September of 2017 there, and it's sort of the industry blew up from there. But they are very focused on infrastructural improvements like bike lanes and parking corrals. And we didn't stage these scooters. These are self-parked scooters. When you give people a place to put things, they will naturally put them there. When you pull into Target and there are 50 empty parking spaces, you don't park diagonally across 3 lines, you park between the lines even though you don't need to, because when you provide order and structure for people, that's naturally what they gravitate towards. And that's it. So my email address is up there. Please take a picture of that. Email me if you have any questions or follow-up. I like to leave a lot of time for Q&A, but I think maybe Shaun should present and then we can do Q&A, or we can do Q&A and then Shaun can present. Yeah, I think that's best.
We'll do Q&A at the end.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nima. Okay, hi guys. So it's been probably 9 years since I left the board of ITS Georgia from a previous job that I had. I served for 2 terms. Everybody regretted it. I somehow got called out of retirement to come today, so I guess we'll start with the disclaimers. I was really actually hoping Ken Fink was going to be here today, because he and I go way back, but for the annual meetings, are you guys still doing the trivia sessions? Oh, you guys suck. Fink and Greener's trivia was like, it was an institution for like 6 years. Okay, anyway, I guess the takeaway from this is always wear a helmet. Baggage, I have it, you have it, we all have it. My baggage extends from me growing up in the 80s in Boston. First and foremost, a Bruins hockey fan. Second, a Red Sox fan. I could give a damn about football or basketball. It was always, how will we lose? Please do not associate me with the current New England and Bostonian luck of all of that's been going on. We've had 2 serious sports deaths in Boston in the last month or so. Bill Buckner is no longer with us. Bill, infamous, from the, I think it was the '86 World Series when the ball went between his legs. So that's that. The city has forgiven him. He passed along, I think, at the end of May. But more importantly to me, the entire 2019 Boston Bruins died right before the end of the first period. This was awful to me. I hadn't done a full playoff hockey beard since 2013, the last time they lost. But the second 2 photos there are 4 hours apart, pre-game and post-game. Awfulness. The reason I showed the first one is to get back to that baggage thing. That's me when I was 3, and then me on my 45th birthday. It was to give my mom a photo of me since I'd just gotten out of ICU. To all of our baggage together, mine, yours, we call it society in other terms. One thing that we're really good at as a society is killing each other through lots of different means. These are pedestrian death rates, gun and vehicle death rates where they overlap. That was kind of interesting. But it always tends to metastasize, and I use that word lovingly, in shared spaces. So here we have 2 properly parked e-scooters adjacent to some knucklehead that couldn't walk another 150 feet to actually put trash in a bag that wasn't full already. So we're here about, that's context, okay? Baggage, context for the rest of this. First and last mile connectivity. What we're doing is trying to find a means for people to get to transit for the most part, right? Instead of using car trips, what are other means of getting people around on short trips like Nima had alluded to? Lots of examples here. but I can boil it down to 3 facts that I want us to take forward. Tools are tools, right? Its use and intention is what dictates good versus evil. In our society, convenience is king. And so you ask yourself, why should signs like this ever exist in the first place? And then all the trouble that we have out on the public right-of-way, in terms of road rage and all of that, littering, why are we surprised when it shows up in smaller, more human environments, right? Get to the third fact. Some people are just assholes. So you start off in the morning with the tools, right? You got all these e-scooters and bikes lined up, ready to go. And they're all organized, and they're all set. It's a clear sidewalk, looks wonderful. Late morning, it starts to get a little different because we haven't really figured out how to organize this stuff yet. We're working on it, but you can see that, as Nima just said, without any organization, people just leave their shit everywhere. We've got some people like those, the top right photo there, they lined them up nicely at the edge of the Beltline trail, but that's really not the way that's supposed to go either. Downtown is an absolute mess with some of these things in certain parts of downtown. People leave them just lying around everywhere. But by afternoon, this is where the assholes kick in. These things can blow over easily in the wind, and then when they're all lined up next to each other, it's dominoes, right? But it also just takes one idiot to go and push, and they all go over, and everybody giggles, and then we're left with this. Ultimately, it's a tragedy of the commons from my perspective, and Nima alluded to this as well, is the city will keep issuing permits to however many people can meet the requirements of what that permit is, as opposed to trying to limit to a, let's say 3, 5, whatever, responsible entities that can actually take care of the stuff that they're putting out there. I think these things are wonderful, don't get me wrong, but this to me, so the bottom left photo is a bunch of scooters. I think there are 4 companies represented there. That is a bump out in the sidewalk so that the MARTA bus can have both its front door and its back door accessible to the sidewalk. And it is no longer accessible because there's 25 scooters there. So those are the kind of things, like you can't fill up the spaces that were intended for transit and ADA access. Now Lime's been a very good partner with the city, trying to do the right thing. I caught this on their website, and you probably can't read it, but it says, under vote to bring Lime to you, it says, we're zero cost to your city, campus, or business. And I told Nima that I was going to be tough but fair. And to call this zero cost is a little bit of a stretch. It's not you, it's the marketing for Lime nationwide or internationally. But when this kind of stuff is going on, there is a cost to the city and society. So the other cost is, again, some companies are more responsible than others. These 6 photos, and I don't know when that yellow scooter got there, but I saw it first on Monday morning, and I took a picture of it because it pissed me off. But I was also knowing I was going to be here doing this, so I was like, okay, well, I'll just do this. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's there for 3 full days. I wasn't there Thursday. This is last week, so I don't know if it's still there, but it's right in the middle of the sidewalk. So the first thing is, why would somebody decide that that's the place to leave it? And then the second thing is, they don't have much of an operations footprint here. They're expecting other people to move it out of the way as opposed to themselves as a corporation. Path forward, we need way more responsible users, but not just on scooters, the public right-of-way, everywhere. Everybody needs to take a lot more responsibility for their actions and their baggage. The responsible providers, same deal. Loading up all of the scooters that you own into, 100 feet of sidewalk is not helping anybody out. The city needs to do a lot more with enforcement and tighter permitting, partnering and permitting. Mobility hubs, and actually you just saw this, I stole the photo from you. In the bottom right, we agree that's Santa Monica. But it's a great little installation that didn't take up a whole ton of space. The one up above it from Arlington, Virginia, you can see the stencils still up on the curb there. But it's a tiny little place where you can actually throw a couple of those things and keep it out of the walkways and the bikeways. And the Atlanta, Georgia one, that's right at the East Side Trail at Monroe Drive in that access point. We actually built that space as a plaza for people. And as soon as we built it, it was filled up with scooters. So it's one of those things where there's some give and take on all this. But I've been at the, and I was just saying to Nima in the car ride up, yeah, I drove, okay? Get over it. I've been at this for 22, 23 years professionally, trying to move the needle on bike lanes and more human kind of transportation throughout Atlanta, and I've, for the most part, failed miserably. And now these things come in within a year. They've got a million rides in Atlanta, 11,000 miles a day or whatever the statistic was. There's going to be some kind of change to the public right-of-way out of pure necessity here. And so I don't really care how it came to be. I'm just thrilled to death that it has. And hopefully I can actually get some more work out of this too, and you all can as well, designing high-quality bike, and I guess we have to call them micromobility lanes at this point. So this is where I think it all kind of comes home for me. I used the scooter to quickly run up to the store to get toilet paper because I live in a house with 4 women, and the last roll had just run out, and it was not going to be pretty. So, you know, it's become ubiquitous when you use it to go get toilet paper. Thank you. That's all I have. Appreciate you.
Is there any questions?
So you probably have an answer for this one, but I'm going to ask a fairly obvious one. So I'm a cyclist, not as active as I like to be, but I do own a bike. I own a bike helmet. And I go downtown and I see hundreds of scooters on the sidewalk and no helmets. And I see people riding, some on the sidewalk, some in the street. 99% of them don't wear a helmet. What is Lime or the Beltline, or what are we doing to address this safety problem?
Well, yeah. Helmets are a hugely complicated issue, and no major bike organization in the United States advocates for mandatory helmet usage. We have seen in many states around the country when they try to enforce something like that, profiling and things like that become a problem, right? Little black boys get stopped for not wearing helmets, little white girls do not get stopped for wearing helmets. 2 is that it puts the onus of safety on the rider rather than on the one with the deadly vehicle. The scooter is not the dangerous vehicle, the car is the dangerous vehicle. And 3, it discourages people from riding bicycles or scooters or things like that if you require them to wear a helmet. That said, I think you are a freaking moron if you are riding a scooter down Peachtree Street and you aren't wearing a helmet. You can be doing everything right, and if a car hits you, a car hits you. There was no fault on your part, but this is a very delicate, fragile thing. We tell people it's against our user agreement to ride our scooters without a helmet. I do not ride scooters without a helmet. I don't ride a bicycle without a helmet. But requiring people to do that, for the reasons that I just enumerated, is something that we don't push for legislation like that, and most advocacy organizations also do not push for mandatory helmets. Shared helmets are unsanitary. So in Seattle, when they put in their dock bike share system in 2015 or 14, they tried to do like a shared helmet program, and it was a colossal failure. And that's sort of all that I have on helmets at this time. But you can get free helmets from us. Come to one of our safety classes, and I'll give you one.
Yeah, and I bring, even if I didn't ride my bike to work, I took transit or whatnot, I'll have a helmet with me just in case. And I have bikes stashed in a couple different places, so there's that. But you know, to kind of turn the question around is, how long has it been that we've had required seatbelt use in cars, right? It hasn't been maybe 10 years since the state said everybody has to do it. like the pickup truck law was always the exemption to that, and that finally got changed, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago. So these things have been around for a year. It's really kind of a state kind of law. If there's going to be mandatory helmet use, it's going to have to come from something like that, in my mind. Vern.
How do scooters relate to non-motorized vehicles in terms of safety? And I'm also wondering if Lime can remotely sense when one of the scooters is involved in a crash, and if so, could you respond to it?
I don't think we can remotely know if a scooter was in a crash, but you know there was a crash here that resulted in a fatality here in Atlanta a few weeks back, and again, no fault of the scooter. In fact, the vehicle driver has been charged with second-degree homicide and speeding. And again, like all of that, it had everything to do with the car and nothing to do with the scooter. When I reached out to Atlanta Police Department to work with them on getting them any of the information that they wanted from the scooter, they said they were viewing it just like any other motor vehicle crash that resulted in a fatality, and that the fact that it was on a scooter and a Lime scooter was not germane to the investigation. But nonetheless, we share anything that we have, but there isn't any specific like a black box or something like with an airplane. But we do have, until it goes offline, which if a scooter was destroyed or something like that, we have all of the data up until it went offline. What was the first part of the question?
How does the operation relate to non-motorized?
Oh, on the injury side. So we're still looking at all of that data, but the CDC did put out a very, very limited in scope study, and they actually presented it here at the EIC conference last month. And they're about in line with biking and walking. They are not that much different. The types of injuries differ, but also the age range differs a lot. So, 5-year-olds who fall off a bicycle, one is that I believe they don't get documented. So I think children injuries, which is where the majority of bicycle injuries happen, aren't documented in the same way. So there wasn't a one-for-one comparison to do. 2, the study that the CDC did was very limited in scope. It was just in Austin over like a 3-month period and only through self-reporting. But so the little bits of data, and we do have a policy team and they don't call it our data team, but another team. We have like 700 people that work for Lime. I have no idea what half the people do. But one of them is like they work with the professors and groups like you all to like share that information, gather that information, the stuff that's not relevant to scooter metrics, but just sort of like how things interact with the world, like injury rates. And I think we're still like putting all that together. The CDC report came out end of April. And it was about in line with scooters. I don't remember the exact numbers, but about in line with walking and biking.
What is the age requirement?
18 plus.
18 plus?
Yes.
Okay, so not even 16 at all?
Not even 16, which, the question was what is the age requirement, and it's 18 plus. I think that, I don't know, but I think the operators would have some appetite to lower that to 16, but the insurance providers do not.
So the data you mentioned, you said they don't include kid incidents.
In bicycles.
Right, it sounds like they wouldn't need to since you're 18 plus.
But the majority, and again, like, I'm sorry if this is not my area of expertise, but that the data we have on injuries is for like child injuries, and the majority of bicyclists are under the age of 16 in the United States. Versus the scooters, you have to be over the age of 18, so there isn't really like relevant one-for-one crash data to look at. Yeah, exactly.
And have you ever thought about using your Lime app to detect an injury? Because obviously the phone is going to be either an abrupt or a really, it's going, because if it's in your pocket, you're going to be thrown out of the way in a very abrupt situation. So have you ever thought about doing that?
So despite the like hysteria reported in the news, there aren't that many injuries or crashes to even like look at that sort of stuff from. But we do have like all sorts of reporting and responsive mechanisms in place, including self-reporting if you're involved in a crash, which then comes to us, and then we also report it to the city and all of that.
Is there any ongoing effort to work with MARTA for Lime or scooters? Because I don't have a car, I take transit all the time, I ride scooter, and I think it will be, if you can reduce fare and time, and I would take both of them more often.
Absolutely. So we do partner with MARTA in a lot of ways. We partnered with MARTA for the Super Bowl. We were giving free rides to new users who were coming to town to use MARTA for the Super Bowl. we partnered with MARTA's Get On Board Day, which is a national day to encourage people riding scooters. We gave free rides that day and did tabling and education and helmet giveaways at the 5 Point station. And every month we partner with MARTA's Fresh MARTA Markets. They have farmers markets at like 6 different MARTA stations from May until December. And every month we partner at the 5 Point station, which is the largest market. The reason we partnered with them is on this initiative is that the Fresh MARTA markets are meant to address food deserts that exist. So if you're not familiar with the concept of food desert, it's that in lower income areas, people have a hard time accessing fresh fruits and vegetables because large grocery stores are not in their areas. So MARTA decided to put these farmers markets at the stations so that people could have access. Additionally, with that access, people who receive EBT or SNAP benefits get 2 for 1. So every dollar they spend gives them $2 of value. My thinking in reaching out to MARTA was if these people already receive EBT or SNAP, that means they qualify for Lime Access. So once a month I table at the Fresh MARTA markets for Lime Access signups, as well as like helmet and education giveaways. So anytime that a transit organization is willing to partner with us, we will. Something we're really interested in is corrals at the MARTAs, like agnostic corrals. Like there's always been so many scooters and bikes in these areas, but MARTA I think is still sort of figuring out what their approach to scooters and e-bikes is going to be, just like the Beltline is, just like everyone is, because as I mentioned, please reach out to anybody you can at the City of Atlanta, but we need to stop issuing permits to operators in this town. It is just unwieldy to have this many operators here. We are one of, I think, 5 or 6 markets in the globe that have this many. And as those of you who live in Midtown, downtown, or near the Beltline can see, it's too many. It's not too many devices, it's too many operators fighting for the same 50 rides.
Nima, question for you and Lime. What is your space in travel or trip planning? Or does the company have sort of a vision for, I guess, a next generation of trip planning?
Like integrating with transit apps to allow you to take a scooter to your transit stop, ride the transit, and then take a scooter from the end stop?
Exactly.
We love that. So I think we're looking at that sort of stuff all the time. I think, again, it's technology, not magic, and a very, very capital-intensive business that in markets like Atlanta are bleeding us dry. So Uber and Lyft, they have a decade head start and initial public offering funding to go on, and we are playing catch-up in that space. But I actually have met with, I don't know if anyone is here from Route Match, which is like a transit app that's based out of here in Atlanta. But those are the types of things that we're very interested in and working on every day. But getting people to stop riding on the sidewalks and to start wearing helmets is taking priority over that right now.
With your implication, you're talking about if somebody takes the scooter and parks it in the wrong place and the other constantly billed, you're getting into your accuracy and your geofencing with that. And I think we've all seen the news where we see the guy going down the connector on the scooter and everybody looking at that going, okay, why are they there? So my point is when it comes to GPS in a large city with skyscrapers, you get an accuracy issue.
Absolutely.
Are you guys overcoming that with cellular communications, some other type of communication through the app?
So I'm not a hardware person, but my understanding is that there's 2 types of GPS in this world. There's consumer grade and military grade, and that we cannot get access to military grade because 1, it's not available for consumer purchase, and 2, even if we were, it's extremely cost prohibitive to implement those into 2,000 scooters per market.
If I'm correct though, haven't the smartphones come up with ways to use cellular communications and wireless communications to augment that to increase the accuracy? Couldn't you use that as well?
That's like 11 technical degrees outside of my expertise, but if you want to email me that information, I can find you or try to find you the answer from each 2.
Thank you.
I went to film school and law school. So.
There was one I saw, is it? Yeah.
During your presentation, you mentioned the Beltline and speed limit reduction. Could you expand a little more on the Beltline and kind of what plans are there?
We have received a lot of complaints. So the East Side Trail opened in 2012, maybe 2013. Traffic volumes, so to speak, on the East Side Trail have been growing significantly. 2018, we had around 2 million plus clicks at the Ponce Bridge, where we've got a trail counter. the density of people is pretty high, especially if you go out on the trail on, say, a nice Saturday afternoon. It's shoulder to shoulder. It's rush hour, right? There's still going to be some idiot that wants to go 30 miles an hour on his bicycle. And there's a lot of idiots, period. There's a bunch of people on the scooters that are buzzing people as well, trying to maintain speed, whether for the joy of it or because they're in a hurry or both. Because of all the complaints we've been receiving, two things ended up happening. One, people running and walking out on the trail stopped complaining about bicyclists and started complaining about scooters, so thank you. And the second thing is City Hall decided that they needed to do something about it, and in partnership with Atlanta Police, City Planning, DPW, and Atlanta Beltline Inc., the speed limit for the scooters is pushed from on high from corporate, to drop from 15 miles an hour to 8 miles an hour as the fastest that the scooters can go on the Beltline. So there's probably issues where if somebody's on a scooter on Ponce using the bike lane and going under the East Side Trail, that GPS may like slow them down and then speed them up again. I don't know how that kind of stuff, to get to your point, ends up being reconciled. I don't know that I really care either to force you to slow down to go back up. But that's kind of the backstory of it, Andrew.
This is for Shaun. So you showed some intersections where there were scooters everywhere, especially on the Beltline, just by like New Rome. Is there any infrastructure plans for that to sort of make geofencing parking areas for the scooters so that they can be better for all?
Yeah, so Beltline and city planning are trying to come up with different ideas as to how to come up with these, for lack of better terminology, mobility hubs. It's because it's not just a bike rack anymore. It's bicycle parking, but it's also flat areas for scooters to park. And again, we need to have some kind of a delineation so that it's organized chaos as opposed to just pure chaos. We're looking at it also we're kicking it around with respect to zoning. Zoning requires any private development to put in X amount of parking per square foot. And this hasn't come to bear yet on something that's only been in town for a year. So we're all kind of dealing with this. There is requirement in most zoning codes for the commercial zoning side of things to put in X number of bicycle parking spaces per square footage or per door, per unit, or however they end up measuring that out. It may be that there's a combination of things, that we put some public space in to kind of corral scooters and bicycles, but that there's also going to be some private spaces that are created, public facing, but private spaces that are created as well to deal with how to properly park the individual vehicles.
I think something I like to talk about a lot when it comes to corrals and designated parking is that those should be preferred parking corrals, but not mandatory parking corrals. As we've seen across the country, it effectively becomes a dock-based system if you have a mandatory parking here and mandatory parking there, and dock-based systems don't work. They don't work to the same efficacy as a dock-free system. If your first parking corral is 2 blocks that way, and your final destination is 3 blocks away from the next parking corral, you're not going to use the parking corral. So the only way to have mandatory corrals is just like with cars. If there's a spot on every block, then sure, you can start guiding to like, you gotta park at one of these spots, but there's a spot at every block. If there's one at this corner and then 4 blocks away there's another one, people aren't going to use them. And they won't use the products. And I think that's something that's missed a lot. What are these products doing? For every negative complaint, is there any good that has come out of dock-free mobility systems across 30 countries across the planet? And can we talk about that just a little bit in addition to the negative externalities that exist?
Given that you've only been operating for a short time, have you seen any efforts either here in Atlanta
any other markets towards utilizing the data that you provide for infrastructure planning, transportation planning, long-term planning? Has anything like come up yet to be like, based on, we've seen all these rides on Peachtree, we now want to put, take a lane away and put in bike lanes or anything like that, either here or anywhere else?
Yeah, we haven't seen that here, and that's like a big beef that I have with the Department of City Planning and bring up to them all the time, is scooters have actually been in Atlanta for about 15 months. Bird was out here 3 months before we came out, and I don't think I've seen a stitch of improvement. I don't own a car. I use MARTA and scooters and bikes all the time, and I haven't seen improvements in the major areas where we operate, despite the fact that there are now millions. We're just one of the operators, and we're at 1.1 million. So assuming around the same usage for the other operators, millions of rides in the past year. I haven't even seen any temporary improvement. However, I do constantly send the Department of City Planning things that happen in Washington, D.C., where they took fallen down trees and built wood bollards out of those trees and just glued them in as a temporary space. Or in Kansas City, where they did spray chalk bike lanes during the peak summer season. So like there are these creative solutions that other cities are doing. I haven't really seen them happen here, but I would very much like to see them happen.
One of the things that Atlanta Beltline's doing, working with City Hall, is we're actually using some of the scooter data with respect to an application to the USDOT for the Build grant, formerly Tiger, now Build. We're looking at doing a project that will be part trail, but also part city street, and we're using scooter data to help substantiate some of the rationale behind it.
And we happily gave all that. So I work with Sean's colleagues, Jill, and I forgot her assistant, the guy.
Lena.
The guy. Dave. That I drafted the support letter for them. I work with HQ to get them the data that we normally only share with cities or college campuses. But we did put together a lot of data, which was trips that started or ended with, I think, within 1/10 of a mile of the Beltline, in addition to all the trips that were on the Beltline. And my understanding is that the usage is incredible and exactly what Beltline wanted to see.
I had a question for Lime about the pricing model. So in a city like Decatur, you're the only operator. How is your pricing different there versus Atlanta, where you have 9 operators?
I'm not involved in pricing, but there's all these factors that go into it. It's very like dynamic and like formulaic and all this stuff. So it's the number of scooters, the number of riders, the frequency in which they're being ridden, where they're being ridden to. Like all of these different factors go in, and our strategy and planning team figure that out. The other component in a place like Atlanta is competitive, right? So if your scooter rides are double the price of your neighbor's scooter ride, then you're going to use the neighbor's scooter. So it's different across like all the different markets, but here we are competitive in Atlanta at $1 to unlock and 29 cents per minute.
And I guess as a follow-up, isn't it good to the consumer for competition to have multiple operators?
So yeah, we're big on like the 3 to 5 number, but the 9, it's just not controllable. There's too many points of contact for the city. For the residents, there aren't enough products, because if I am a Lime, Bird, Jump, and Lyft user, I now need to get Bolt and Gotcha and Spin as well, because what if those 4 products aren't available because I have an artificial cap on the number of products?
All right, one last question. Yeah.
So kind of a follow-up for Marco. With Decatur, thinking you got US being exclusive.
So I'll also say, I'm not supposed to like talk smack about the competitors, but we weren't supposed to be the only provider there, but some of our competitors decided to not move forward with the agreement, but we did.
Okay, because my question was, does that mean the city gets, can the city make money off of you guys?
Well,
A percentage or something like that?
I mean, I think by now the city of Atlanta has seen about $1 million in revenue from the scooter operators, but I haven't seen any bike lane improvements or any more cops or anything to like support what's happening, because the money goes into the general fund here.
I didn't know if there was a true exclusivity agreement with the city. Not saying it's this one, I don't know if we have those exclusivity agreements with the city at all.
I don't think so. We have some with college campuses, but I can't think of any, unless we were selected as the sole RFP provider to a city, which I don't think that has happened yet. We don't have any like rev share. Yeah, we don't have any like rev share with any of the cities.
Well, thank you guys. Everyone.